right, hey guys, Jerry from Showtime Audio. Just wanted to do the final walkthrough on Danny's beautiful Slingshot R. This thing turned out amazing. I mean, the amount of output out of this is ridiculous. So we have one 10-inch sub ported. This thing is amazing. I mean, literally, it hits like a car, which is crazy for, for motorcycle, slingshot. This vehicle, what we ended up going with was 2 sets of Cicada CHs. Those are the 6.5s with the compression horn, 2 in the factory kick pods, which we made adapter plates for, as well as 2 in these SSV Works headrest pods. We have the Ground Zero hydrogen 10-inch woofer, and that fits in the factory cubby. We have 2 amplifiers. They live under here and beneath the wing you got your 804 and your 3001. And then down here, we have the extra Braille battery, which on a custom plate with a bracket, all the circuit breakers and all that. This thing sounds unreal. I mean, the amount of output that you're getting out of just technically 4 speakers and a sub is ridiculous. Obviously they're coaxes, so it's a mid-bass driver as well as a compression horn, but it's still technically 4 speakers and a sub, 5 channels, 4 channel for the highs, a mono block for the bass. I mean, and then obviously we have a DSP so that we can tune it and adjust everything and make it sound phenomenal. This Sling has a factory radio with Bluetooth backup camera, so the client definitely wanted to keep it. It has your steering wheel controls, volume up, volume down. It just makes it super nice, super easy. And then we have the bass knob with the power light and the clip indicator. So that lets you know if you're clipping. This way you can keep from blowing the bass amp or the sub itself. So on this vehicle, we have 3 circuit breakers. So there's 1 in the front and 2 in the rear. The one in the front protects the wire run from the front battery to the back battery. The one in the back protects the run technically from the back battery to the front battery. The reason you want 2 is because let's say the wire, for whatever reason, let's say the wire got pinched in the center. The front fuse would blow. But if you don't have one on the rear, the wire is going to continue to burn because there's still power at the back battery. So that's why you want a circuit breaker or a fuse both on the front and the back. And then we have a 3rd breaker that's from the battery to the distribution for the amps. And that protects the wire run from the battery up to the amplifiers. So you definitely want to make sure that they're fusing it or circuit breakers in all 3 areas if you have a secondary battery. So this is 1/0 cable. So we upgraded the charging wire and the factory ground wire. So it's all in this braided looming with the heat shrink. And then we also made a bracket for the circuit breaker. So this is the bracket for our circuit breaker. We machine it, bend it, and then mount the breaker to it. The nice thing is if you want to isolate the system from the bike, you press that. Now it's completely isolated from the front battery. If you need to hook it back up, just click that and you're back in business. All right, so the reason we went with the subwoofer is 1, it's a great subwoofer. It takes a ton of power. And in a slingshot application, that's what's necessary, right? You need it to be able to take a ton of power because you're literally sitting out in the open. So imagine trying to fill the world with bass. Good luck with that, right? This does that by being 1, it's firing into the back of the seat, so it's loading. Also, it's ported out the bottom, so it's in essence loading off the floor, and it gives you actual bass, like sub bass, which is not common on a motorcycle or a slingshot. With applications like this, it's starting to be more common, but it's very hard to get bass on a motorcycle or slingshot. So we also went with a Hertz S8 DSP. So what that allows us to do is a bunch of stuff, and we'll show you some footage of that, but it allows us to set crossover points, adjust gains, set time alignment. If polarity happens to be backwards, we can change that. I mean, it just allows us to tailor the sound to the client's needs and also to the speakers and to the vehicle, right? So all the speakers react differently depending on the way they're built, right? So this allows us to tailor it and give a smooth signal or a smooth sound so that it's loud and equal all the way up. Because the thing is, if the sound is like if it has a spike in certain spots, those frequencies are gonna sound really loud, but everything else is gonna sound lower. And with compression horns, they tend to have a spike. So we wanna minimize that and kind of smooth it out so that it sounds smooth across the entire spectrum of music. As we showed you in the video, everything we do, we do it as plug and play as humanly possible, and we make harnesses and adapters and connectors and use factory bolts wherever possible. All this so that basically it can be returned back to factory, or I mean, the main reason we do it is to ensure the longevity of the build, right? You can, years from now, this thing will still be 100% working, as opposed to a lot of times, especially on motorcycles and outdoor vehicles, there's a lot of vibration, there's a lot of abuse, it's a hard life for the gear. So you want to make it as secure as possible so that it lasts as long as possible. All right, so just to show you the lengths that we go to kind of protect the integrity of the bike and keep from scratching it. So this has a plastic nut, right? Which you need to remove in order to remove this pod, in order to remove this panel. So what we ended up doing is we didn't want to mar it, and rather than just take like some vice grips or hit it or whatever, we actually lasered a tool. We made a tool in order to be able to remove it without marring it. Yeah, I know it's a little overboard, but this is how picky we are when it comes to, especially with brand new vehicles. The owner hasn't scratched it. I'm sure as hell not gonna scratch it. You know what I mean? Or we're gonna do everything in our power to try not to. So yes, it's a little overboard, but again, that's the type of the attention to detail we try to pay to every vehicle. Doesn't matter if it's brand new or older, but especially obviously on a brand new vehicle. All right, and if you'd like to watch the whole process, please keep watching. We got a battery tray mount. The thing is, the hold down bracket is made for a different battery. We could have made it work by like bending it and making it fit, but rather than do that, we machined and bent our own bracket. This is the actual size of the Braille battery that we will be using, and we're gonna bolt it in place using all the stainless hardware. So we'll show you this once it's actually in the vehicle. This is the R, so it has the factory front kick pods in it. So what we're gonna do is we've machined these adapters. So these adapters are actually They're pretty complicated, but it makes it so that it's super easy to reverse. So there'll be 4 of those, and then that goes in. And then these are M4 bolts that bolt the adapter to the pod. Then you take your speaker, and we've threaded the ABS. So then you take the grill, and there's more M4 bolts now, and those secure the speaker and the grill to the pod. But the nice thing is there's no modification to the pod, right? So the pod is 100% stock. So if you ever wanted to reverse the process, you can. And it also makes it so that you don't have to buy new pods, right? So in that vehicle, you can use the existing pod. These cicadas will work great in there. So in this particular case, the factory, Polaris, uses M6 bolts. So they're M6, but obviously they're very small so that the speaker is held in place. So then what we have to do is figure out what the proper distance is. We have to figure out what the pitch, the thread, and the length of the bolt is. And with these custom adapters, we also have to figure out the length that we need so it doesn't interfere with our speaker and so that our speaker will still sit flush. That's why we had to pocket this, right? So we pocket it so that that head is beneath our adapter so that it doesn't interfere with us being able to seal the speaker against the adapter. And we'll show you that, because just like everything we do, we're gonna foam tape the back, foam tape the speaker, and then obviously mount everything all together so that it's one assembly. One of those little details that can eat up a lot of time to figure out, but once you figure it out, now you know for the future ones down the road. All right, so we got our adapter bolted in. We have our foam gasket tape on the back of the adapter, our foam gasket tape on the back of the speaker, all our M4 hardware. These are all threaded and tapped. And then we even have these standoffs to ensure that it's super solid, right next to where the speaker itself mounts. So this is the amp board. It's made out of 1/4-inch composite, and it is bolted to the original subframe of the vehicle. All the amps are mounted with machine hardware, so they're threaded and tapped and bolted in place, including the fuse distribution. So this is both your power and your ground, and as always, everything is labeled by red and black, so it's really easy to identify. These are all your speaker connections, which run up and go to the factory radio. And then we are using all the original connectors that came with this Slingshot. So this Slingshot had the R system, had no rear speakers, but it has the wiring. So we created we bought the pods, and the pods plug in. And so if you see, we rib nutted the frame, and this plate is bolted in place to the factory aluminum frame. All right. So here we have on the newer 2020 and up Slingshots, the battery used to live in this location, is now under the hood, and it's a tiny motorcycle battery. So we added this Braille battery back here, which we bought this aluminum mounting plate, but the bracket was not correct for our battery, so we bent our own and then bolted with plush nuts and stainless hardware. We also built this bracket, which is made out of composite as well, for the circuit breakers, and I don't know if you could see, but they're labeled. One says amplifier, one says battery. So this one protects the run of power wire from the main battery to the second battery, and this one protects the run from this secondary battery up to the amplifiers. The nice thing about running these breakers is they're water resistant, and also if you have an issue, all you do is press that button, and now it's completely isolated from the vehicle, right? To turn it back on, just hit both of those and we're back in business. This bracket is also secured to the plate, nut and bolted as well. And again, all our wires are labeled with the red heat shrink and covered in this Tech Flex, which protects the wire from getting cut or damaged. So on this particular R, we used the original enclosure that we made this composite adapter, and again, all machine hardware. The adapter bolts to the pod using M4 hardware, and the speaker bolts to the adapter using M4 hardware. The other thing that these have is the Cicada CHs, so we put the frog skin water resistant membrane on there, so that keeps them from getting water or wet or destroyed, right? If the car ever does get caught in the rain. So we mounted the bass knob right here, right near the radio. The nice thing about this is it shows you when your amp is on, but it also has a clip indicator. So the nice thing is, depending on the music, you can turn it up, and when you see the clip light, you can back it off a little bit. That will ensure that you do not damage the amp or the sub, because clipping is what kills amplifiers and woofers, actually. This is our S8, our Hertz S8 DSP, which he also machined the bracket, and the S8 is bolted to this bracket, and then the bracket is bolted to a stock pickup point, which is right here. So the nice thing about this is all our RCAs are here, all our speaker connections, everything is heat shrunk and soldered, and it's all dressed. So it looks like as if it came with the vehicle. As if you see, this is factory tape. So this is the factory abrasion resistant tape on this harness, and this is our aftermarket abrasion resistant tape, just the same as that.